Ellie Cortez. I'm an admissions coordinator for the MSSW program, the Masters of Science in Social Work, at the Kent School of Social Work and Family Science at the University of Louisville. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I will be leading the session, but I am joined with my colleague, Daphne, here tonight. She's going to help me out by answering questions in the chat throughout the presentation. But please also feel free to raise your hand and unmute and ask questions throughout if you want. But we should have plenty of time for questions at the end too. So yeah, it's very casual. So feel free to stop us if you have questions. But to get started, I want to introduce our admissions team. So I introduced myself and Daphne. So how we do it is we have an alpha split. So Daphne helps students whose last names are A through L. And I help students whose last names are M through Z. And we're here to help you with the application process or any questions you have. And then we have our fearless leader, Valerie Miller, who is our associate director over admissions, and she handles our scholarships, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So if you have applied for scholarships or will in the future, you will interact with her. And that's our team. And so for our session this evening, this is just an outline for you, what to expect. So first, we're going to talk about a little bit about what is social work, kind of an introduction to the field for those of us who may be new and still exploring whether it's for you. And then we'll talk about our MSSW program. So a little bit about, the program components, curriculum, stuff like that. And then we'll talk about practicum education, which is a signature part of social work education. And then we'll talk about some campus resources that we have. And then we'll go into the application process a little bit, our application requirements and process and stuff like that, deadlines. We'll talk a little bit about tuition and financial aid and scholarships, and then we'll leave time for questions at the end. Okay, so what is social work? So a lot of people hear social work and they think, they think about case management, caseworkers, they think about child welfare services, any social service agencies and stuff like that. And that is definitely a job for social workers. It's a very important role, and we have quite a lot of jobs available doing that. But that is just one segment of social work and one segment of the field that you can do with an MSSW specifically. So we like to kind of expand your thinking about what social work is. So actually, the overarching goal of the field is to work toward improving social conditions and alleviating social problems that have been created in our society over time. So we are trying to look at these problems and figure out why they exist. Let's get to the root of the issue and try to solve these problems to try to make a more equitable society. And there's many different ways that you can do that. So we're, mostly working with marginalized populations because of that. They're the ones that are most affected by these inequality in our society. So advocating on behalf of them, creating social services for them, creating programs, helping people, overcome barriers, access resources and stuff like that, all with the overarching goal of making sure that everyone has an equal footing in society and an equal chance to do well and live their best lives. But specifically, when you think about social work jobs, I like to think about the different levels of practice in social work. So there's the micro level. That's the one that most people think about, the case manager. You're working with families or individuals one-on-one, kind of just trying to address their problems right here and right now. Accessing resources and stuff like that. That's micro practice. There's also therapy is a micro practice, and we'll talk about how you can use this degree to become a therapist in a minute. But there's also meso level social work. So that is more looking at the community level. So affecting change on the community level. So being an activist in your community, being an educator. So you can work in schools. You can work with students K through 12 schools and be like a school resource officer, creating programs and stuff for students. You can work at the University of Louisville and educate students on, social problems, healthy health education, stuff like that. That's more meso work. And then there's the macro level. That is more looking at larger systems. So rather than, helping people on the ground right now, how do we address your problems? We're actually looking at what is the root of this issue that has been created in society and how can we try to address it? So like doing research is an example of macro work, policy work. So being a lobbyist, advocating for better policies in government, that's more macro work. And so this is just a very, very short list of examples of job titles that you can have with an MSSW degree. Like I said, it's a very short list, but it just kind of gives you some ideas of what's out there. I like to say that you pretty much, you name the population and you can work with them in so many different capacities. This degree is so diverse. That's the beauty of it. It prepares you to work with, all these different settings. So, medical social work, that's a huge growing sector of the field of social work. And it's the highest paid social workers too. You can work at the VA and work with veterans. You can work with at-risk youth and after-school programs. I mentioned lobbyist earlier, research assistant. The possibilities are truly endless. So the MSSW is a terminal degree, so it is the highest degree you need to do anything in the field of social work. So it prepares you to do all of these things. And so these are just some statistics from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics that kind of can give you some examples of, job outlook and salary expectations. As you see, the job outlook is projected at 7% growth right now, which does not sound like a lot, but it actually is. It's higher than the national average in all sectors. And it is some jobs even have negative job growth. So 7% is really great. So we really need social workers. The jobs are out there. And then for salaries, it's really going to depend on what sector of the field you go into. Is going to kind of determine how much you can make. Typically direct services make less than, more administrative, which is unfortunate. But, but that can kind of give you an idea there. So as I said before, medical social workers are the highest paid social workers generally. You can expect about 68,000 starting out. And these are median annual incomes. So right in the middle. And the median annual income for May 2024 for social workers was 61,000 per year. So, as I said, it's going to vary depending on what you're doing and where you are in the country. But these are just some examples for you. So social work is a profession, and because of that, it has a licensure requirement involved. You're working with people and in sensitive topics and areas. So of course, there's going to be a licensure requirement. There's a code of ethics that you'll follow. And you will need a license to practice in most settings, depending on your state. But how that works is, and it's the process and the requirements vary per state, but generally, your master's level licensure is what you will do first once you graduate. You'll sit for in Kentucky, it's the CSW exam. And once you pass that exam, you'll have your CSW. And then you have an option to go on to get your LCSW, the clinical licensure. And by the way, our program does meet the requirements for licensure in all 50 states. So if you are in a different state, that's okay. Our program is going to give you the educational requirements needed to do that there. And it might just be that you want to make sure about the practicum hours. That can vary per state, but the educational requirements, we meet them in all 50 states. So after your master's level licensure or the CSW in Kentucky, what you can do if you want to be a therapist is you can work under an LCSW for about 2 years, and it's going to vary by your state, but in Kentucky, it's about 2 years. And once you accrue your supervision hours, your clinical supervision hours, you can sit for the LCSW exam, and then you will have your clinical licensure, and you can do therapy. You can have your own private practice and everything. So it's a great alternative pathway to being a therapist that a lot of people don't know about. So that's a little bit about the licensure process. So the Kent School. So why Kent? So Kent has been around for a very long time, 90 years to be exact, actually. You'll see the 90th anniversary icon up here. So this year we are celebrating our 90th anniversary, and that is how old our MSSW program is, believe it or not. It's one of the oldest in the countries. So we are a very well-established, reputable program located in the largest city in Kentucky. We have amazing faculty. We're an R1 institution, so we have, all the federal funding to do these wonderful research projects, and we work with wonderful community partners to do amazing work. So I think we are definitely number one in the state of Kentucky by the U.S. News and World Report, and then I believe we're like 43rd in the nation. So we're pretty high up there. And our MSSW program, and more specifically, as I said before, it's our oldest program. It is a generalist social work education. So it is, it prepares you to do anything in the field. So it doesn't have, a clinical focus. It doesn't have a macro focus. It is generalist. So you will learn everything kind of. You can customize it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it is generalist. Our online program predates the pandemic. I believe it's 2016, I think, is when it was created. So it's well established. Our faculty members are great. They are very interactive with our students. So if you're an online student, you will still get lots of support. But yeah. So the program is designed, every MSSW program is designed this way. So there's an advanced standing option. That's a shorter option, 30 credit hours. And that's for people with BSW degrees from a CSWE accredited institution. So if you have a BSW degree and you've received it within the last 7 years, you can do the advanced standing program. It's 30 credit hours. Otherwise, we have a 60-hour program, and that's for all majors. So it doesn't matter what your major was. It just, as long as it's from a regionally accredited school, you will qualify for the 60-hour program. And so we have lots of options in our program. It's very flexible, and it's designed to be customizable. So we have an on-campus program as well as an online program. And if you are in Louisville or in Kentucky, you can actually take classes in both. So if you're in the online program, you can take in-person classes sometimes and vice versa. The online program is asynchronous currently. So that means there's no meeting times. It's just you get your assignment at the beginning of the week and it's due at the end of the week kind of thing. But we are slowly trying to incorporate more synchronous options. Our university just passed a policy that we can start doing synchronous courses. So we're hoping to add more of that. So there may be some of those in the online program currently, but not very many. You can do full-time or part-time to finish. You can really go as slow or as fast as you want to finish, as long as you finish within 6 years. That's the requirement. And I don't think anybody wants to drag it out that long if they can help it. And you can also start the program in fall, spring, or actually summer. So if you miss the fall or the spring entry, you can always just apply in the summertime. And we have some options. So as I mentioned before, you can customize our degree. So we have concentrations. So basically how it works is you will have 3 electives built into your curriculum, and you can choose to do them in a certain area if you want. You don't have to. But the areas that you can choose from are alcohol and drug counseling, gerontology, which is working with older populations, aging populations, mental health social work, military social work, psychosocial oncology / medical social work. So that is now going to be called health and cancer is actually the new name of that concentration. But so you can either, and that one, within that one, you can choose to focus on cancer or just medical social work in general. And then we have school social work. That's for people who want to be school resource officers or school social workers, and you work with students in K through 12 schools. And then we have forensic social work. That's our newest concentration, and that is working within the criminal justice system. And we're actually going to have a forensic social work info session coming up at the end of the month, so definitely watch out for that. We'd be happy to send you that information. But yeah, so these are optional. The benefit would be they do appear on your transcript, and then you can write them on your resume, kind of like a resume booster. But most of them don't lead to like a certification. The drug and alcohol and the school social work do lead to a certification though. But we also have dual degree programs. So it's basically you get 2 master's degrees at the same time. I have a question in the chat. So how many concentrations can you have at a time? So that's a really good question. Typically, one is going to be within the 60 credit hours. If you do 2, you can do 2, but it might put you over a class. It just depends, because some of the concentrations they'll share a class that will go toward both. So if you pick 2 concentrations that are similar and some of the coursework counts toward both, then it might not put you over, or I think it usually would put you over 1 class. But I don't think there's a limit on how many concentrations you can do. But yeah, so dual degrees. So that's kind of like double majoring in undergrad. So some of your coursework counts toward both degrees, and you are working toward both degrees. You have to take all the classes, but there's just some overlap that'll kind of cut down on the time. You do have to apply to both degree programs and get accepted to both. But yeah, whichever degree you do kind of determines how much overlap there might be. So our MS in Couple and Family Therapy program is through the Kent School. So it's for students who are really, really interested in therapy and know that that's what they want to do, and they want to work with couples and families. That's a great dual degree option, and it has so much overlap. Each program, our program and their program, are 60 credit hours each, but with the dual degree program, it's only 84 credit hours, I believe, for two master's degrees. That's pretty awesome. But we also have MA in Pan-African Studies, MA in Women, Gender, Sexuality Studies, the Juris Doctorate, which is the lawyer degree, and then Master of Divinity, that's through the seminary, MA in Healthcare Ethics, Latin American and Latino Studies certificate. So that the last one is actually a graduate certificate. So it's not quite a whole other degree, but it's a certificate. But that's a great option as well. Okay, so practicum. So if you are a 30-hour student, you've probably heard of practicum, maybe even done one so far, but 60-hour students, it might be new to them. So practicum is a signature part of social work education. It's it's kind of like an intense internship. You'll do, it's built into the curriculum, so you will do 2 practicums in the 60-hour program, and they're each 2 semester long. So you will you'll be assigned a practicum coordinator who will help you find a practicum, but you're doing hands-on work in the field under an MSSW graduate who has worked in the field for at least 2 years. And so you're getting hands-on experience, one-on-one supervision with them regularly. So you're really putting your academic learning to work in the field, and it's a really awesome experience. Oftentimes our students end up with jobs when they graduate at their practicum sites. So yeah, so you'll do 2 in the 60-hour program. So this is just a little bit more about practicum, like details. So each practicum is 2 semesters long. The first practicum for 60-hour students is 450. Sorry. The second practicum is 500 hours. So just a little bit longer. And then I said before, you'll be supervised by an MSSW. And so these are just some examples of places that you can do your practicum, just to get you some ideas going. But the possibilities are endless, as I said before. You can do it with a shelter for houseless populations. You can do a drug and alcohol facility, immigrant and refugee services. You can do it in a school. You can do it in a hospital. Basically, where you think you want to work, you would want to do your practicum in to get experience there. And it by no means determines, what it doesn't determine like what you have to do for the rest of your life or anything like that. But it's just giving you that experience. And sometimes it gives you the experience and you realize that's not where I want to work, and that's a great life lesson too. So I see another question. So are the dual degree programs available for online students? Good question. So that's going to depend on which program you do. The couple and family therapy program is only in person. So that one is only in person. But some of the other ones might be. So that's, again, you can look at that link Daphne sent, the course catalog. That will tell you whether each program is in person or online. So if their program is online, then of course you can do all online. So another benefit to the Kent School is we actually have professional advisors for our students. So most graduate programs don't. Most programs you would have just a faculty member advise you, but we actually have a professional advising team. So we have Connie Cox, who advises students whose last names are A through L, and then Winobi Williams advises students whose last names are M through Z. So they're here to help you register for classes, pick out your classes, help you with campus resources, stuff like that. And then Dr. Jennifer Foreman is their associate director and, helps students as well. But that's their team. They're awesome. And we also have some additional campus resources we just like to highlight that are free to our students. A counseling center, the planned professional development. It's a program through the graduate school. So they put on like professional development opportunities for grad students specifically, as well as like mental health, workshops and stuff like that. We have a writing center that helps you with your writing all along the way. If you did undergrad, you probably know or may have used a writing center. But all these resources are available to graduate students as well. The Disability Resource Center is amazing. We definitely recommend students who need accommodations go there. We have a career center that our students have access to, even I believe up to 3 to 5 years after they graduate, to help you with resume writing, cover letter writing, applying to jobs, stuff like that. We have the Center for Belonging, Access, and Engagement. They do programming, cultural programming and stuff like that. We have the Center for Military Connected Students, and they help our military students get their benefits going. So yeah, those are some amazing campus resources we have for our students. Okay, so getting down to the nitty-gritty, how to apply to grad school. So these are our admissions requirements. We don't require a GRE, so you don't have to take that awful test. We prefer a cumulative GPA of 3.0, but it's not an absolute requirement, and we'll talk about that. So the application is online. It's a centralized application through U of L's graduate school, and then you select our program, and then the requirements will populate. There's a few short essays on there. You'll submit all of your official transcripts. So that includes even a school that you went to for one semester or even one class. We still have to have it. The only loophole is if you are a U of L student and, took courses elsewhere, we will probably already have that transcript. But if you're coming from another institution, we'll need all of your transcripts. Then we have a writing sample. It's 3 pages long. Not too bad. It's just to show that you understand academic writing and are capable of it. And then we have letters of recommendation. And if you're applying to the 30-hour program, you only need 1 letter because we use your practicum evaluation as your other letter. And then for the 60-hour program, we require 2 letters of recommendation. You submit your resume, And then there's a $65 non-refundable application fee. But we do waive that for military and veterans and for people receiving a government assistance program. So yeah, ask for fee waiver if you think you qualify. So yeah, we also have application checklists that make the process really easy. They outline exactly what I just said, the process for applying and all the requirements. They're on our website. And as far as I see a question about letters of recommendation. So if you have graduated within 2 years, your letter, at least one letter needs to come from a professor. If it's been longer than 2 years since you've graduated, you do not have to have a professor. So, but the letters of recommendation from professional references must be from a supervisor. They cannot be from coworkers or, just people that you work with. It needs to be a direct supervisor. So it needs to either be a supervisor or a professor. So let's see. No personal recommendations, so no coworkers, no mentors, no advisors. So your academic advisor cannot write you a letter unless they also taught you in a class, and so on. Always reach out to more than the number you need. So if you need to, reach out to 3 people, if you can. It never hurts to have a backup plan in case somebody just isn't able to do it for whatever reason. And yeah, if you end up having 3 letters, that's only going to make your application stronger. So the addendum comes in if you do not have a 3.0. So if you don't have a 3.0, all we do is ask for an additional essay where you kind of spell out what happened. Hold on. You kind of just talk about like the barriers you faced, the challenges you faced in undergrad, why you had below a 3.0, but more importantly, we also want you to talk about what has changed. So what you're going to do to maintain a 3.0 in graduate school, because in graduate school, you cannot graduate without a 3.0. In undergrad, you can. So it's not meant to be a punishment or anything like that. It's just meant to show that you understand the rigors of graduate school. It is going to be more challenging than undergrad. So, we just want to see that, make sure that you understand that. Because we don't want to admit you and then see you not succeed. So we just want to make sure that you're ready. And then we also take some transfer credit if you've started a program elsewhere. As long as it was in the last 3 years, you can reach out to us and we'll talk to you about the process for that. So our application deadlines, they don't change. They're about the same every year. If you want to start in summer, and that would be early May, your deadline is going to be March 20th. If you want to start in August, it would be July 1st would be your deadline. And if you want to start in the spring or January, that'll be November 1st. So just watch out for these deadlines. Caveat about the deadlines is we really, really, really encourage you to apply well before them. The earlier you apply, the more time you have to apply for funding options. Unfortunately, most of the funding is on the back end. So you have to be accepted, accept your spot in the program, and then you can start applying to funding options. And you can always, decide to defer your start if you don't get funding and stuff like that. But that's why we encourage students to apply well before the deadline, if possible. So practicum education. So that whole process, applying for practicum, is going to happen after you are admitted. So that's why we highlight they have their own deadlines. So these are just things to keep in mind, especially for 30-hour students who are trying to go really, really fast. And they might want to start practicum right when they start the program. And some 60-hour students might want to do that too. So these are kind of some deadlines to keep in mind because this is going to happen after you're accepted. So their deadlines are earlier than ours. So if you want to start your placement in spring to summer, your deadline for non-local students is September 15th. And for local students, it's October 31st. And then if you want to do fall to spring placement, the deadlines are May 15th for non-local and June 30th for local. So their caveat is that you can still apply after the deadlines. They're not as strict as ours. It's just they can't guarantee, basically. If it's past these deadlines, they can't guarantee that they're going to help you be able to find a practicum. They will help you, but they might not be able to find a practicum, especially if you're out of state. That might be just more challenging. So cost of attendance, so these are our tuition rates. Full-time, which is 9 credit hours or more for residents is about 7,652 per semester. And then if you go less than 9, so 9 credit hours is full-time in grad school. So if you go less than 9 credit hours, it's just a flat rate of $850 per credit hour. And then our online program is the same. It's $850 per credit hour. So we're giving out of state students a break in that. So they're not paying out of state tuition, basically. So if you do the math, it basically all shakes out to about $850 per credit hour. The only thing to think about is if you're in person on campus and you are going to take more than 9 credit hours, you get a deal because it's a flat rate per semester. So you won't be charged more for more than 9 credit hours unless you're in the online program. That is per credit hour period. So just make sure to check out the Bursar's office and really read through everything, get advised and everything so that you make sure that you pick the program that is the most, fiscally advantageous for you. But we do have some funding. So, grad school is expensive, but we do have some funding options out there. The Kent School has its own scholarships. Unfortunately, they're not full rides, but usually everyone that applies gets something. So we award them every fall and every spring semester. And they can really vary in amount. So it just depends on how much is in the pot at the time. And how many students apply. Usually if more than one student applies and meets all the requirements, they'll get something. I think right now, usually students get a class paid for, which is nice. At least it's something. And how that works is each semester when the scholarship portal will open and we let students know and you go in and apply to whichever scholarships you meet the requirements of. But there's other options out there. There's graduate assistantships or GA positions. So those are typically jobs on campus that will pay your tuition and a stipend sometimes, or it might just be a stipend. It depends on which position you get. Kent School doesn't have GA positions, but other offices do. And then, of course, there's the FAFSA. We always recommend filling one out, and it's required for our scholarships. On the graduate level, unfortunately, it's all student loans. But you still want to fill out a FAFSA to see what you can get. And yeah, you can always just ask around. You just kind of have to it's kind of find your own funding on the graduate level. There are paid practicums, but they are few and far between, I will say, but you can always ask your practicum coordinator, if they know of any paid options. So on that note, we do have one paid practicum that we like to highlight. So it's the Flourish Behavioral Health Internship Program through the Traeger Institute. It's an affiliate of U of L. And they have an optimal aging clinic where they work with aging populations about their behavioral health. So if you are interested in behavioral health, gerontology, or working with rural populations, medical social works, anything like that, this might be a great opportunity for you. You can just ask your practicum coordinator about it. But they have a grant to where their practicum students get $10,000 scholarships per year. So it's a really, really great opportunity. And it's only for advanced standing, or, your second. Either your one practicum if you're a 30-hour student, or it would have to be your second practicum if you are a 60-hour student. But yeah, you can always ask about that. Yeah, so we like to end by kind of talking about what can you be doing now. If it's still a little ways away for you, you're just exploring. These are some tips that you can be doing now to prepare for grad school. So you can establish and maintain good relationships with your professors. This is going to come in handy when you need to ask for a letter of recommendation. If you like a professor, stay after class if you can, send an email. If you're an online student, send an email. Just say that you enjoy their class and are interested in their work. You can always go ahead and put that, little bug and say, like, when I ask for a letter of recommendation, will you write me one? And they might, if you're an online student, I've had a lot of online students say that they have issues getting letters of recommendation, but your professor should still be willing to write you a letter. So whether they want to, set up a virtual meeting with you and kind of talk about your career goals and stuff like that, that might be something that they want to do before they write you a letter. But you will still be expected to provide a letter from a professor, even if you're an online student. So just keep that in mind. And then beware of your cumulative GPA and try to keep it above a 3.0 if you can. Most graduate programs do require a 3.0, so we're not crazy for that. So you will need to have a 3.0 for most programs. So if you can, take that 1 credit hour walking class to get that GPA up. Talk with people who have completed a graduate program. This is a great resource. Anytime you do something new, oftentimes you'll talk to somebody who's done it before. Yeah, definitely recommend that. And if you want to talk to somebody who's done an MSSW program specifically, I'm happy to connect you with any of our faculty. Many of them have done MSSW programs, mostly at our school, and they love talking to prospective students. So please just let us know if you want to do that. Think about types of social work and practicum placements that interest you. So this is another way to kind of explore whether you think social work is for you, and kind of imagine yourself doing it. Could you see yourself doing it, and what would you do? But I also like to highlight here that you really don't have to know. So as I said before, it's a very diverse degree. You can do so many different things with it. And many social workers switch up the population they work with, the capacity that they work in throughout their careers many times. So that's the beauty of the degree. So you don't have to know. And then set up a one-on-one with an MSSW admissions coordinator like myself or Daphne. We are happy to meet with you more one-on-one about any of these topics anytime. So just shoot us an email. I'll put up our contact information. This is our social media. If you want to follow us, we are always out in the community doing stuff, and our social media is pretty active. So if you want to connect, please do. And then I'll put our contact information. MSSWKent@louisville.edu is our email. Just shoot us an email anytime. We're happy to answer questions. And with that, that is it. So does anybody have any other questions? Just looking back through the chat. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. My name's Jamani. I'm based in California, and so I have a couple questions. How would the practicum apply if I were to apply and accept to the program? How would that work? With their availability for me to do it here, or is it online based? And then follow-up question or secondary question would be, I was interested, really drawn to the psycho-oncology concentration that you mentioned earlier, but it seemed like you mentioned that the name change, it's just the name or the curriculum part that changed. I'm interested in like the therapy in a psycho-oncology type route or specialty.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I could barely hear you, but I think your first question was like about practicum and being out of state, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, so most practicums are in person. They want you to have that in-person experience. There are virtual options, but they try to discourage them unless you really can't work it out in your schedule. But yeah, so we have tons of students from all over the nation, and your practicum coordinators. So I think we have 5 practicum coordinators, and they each have areas of the US that they work with. So you will get a practicum coordinator who works in your area, and they will talk to you about your career goals and stuff like that. And then they will try to help you get a practicum. So we have affiliation agreements with many different organizations across the US. But if we don't have one in your area, that's okay. They will try to find one. Or it just might take a little longer if they have to go that route. We also have the option of doing a practicum where you work. So if you currently work in a social service agency, you can always explore that option too. I didn't mention that before, but that is a flexible option for people. And then for the psychosocial oncology, so that is just a name change.
Okay.
There's no curriculum change there.
Okay.
Did that answer your questions?
Yes, thank you so much. Answer both of them.
Okay.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Trying to get my charger, sorry. Okay. I can't read. Elizabeth, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So my first question was just about if you're local and you want to do that overlap of in-person and online classes, what does that look like in terms of like tuition? Does that just depend on what class you want to take in person?
No, so that's a really good question. So that's where the difference between the in-person rate is a flat rate per semester. So if you are going to take more than 9 credit hours, period, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter what mode each class is in. It matters what program you're in. So if you apply to the in-person program, you will be charged the in-person rate even for your online classes and vice versa. So the only time it really comes into bearing about like deciding which program to be in is if you're going to do more than 9 credit hours each semester. And a lot of our students do. So it just depends on you, because if you're going to do not more than 9 credit hours, the in-person program is a better deal because it's a flat rate. Whereas if you're in the online program, it is $8.50 per credit hour. So if you take 12 credit hours, it's going to be 12 times $8.50. But yeah, it's not going to vary by, like, you're not charged differently per class. You are only charged according to which program you're in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. My other question was also like, as a local or living in Kentucky, do you guys know, or do you know, like with practicums, do you guys work with case management agencies like 7 counties? I know is the biggest one, but for like employment case management, it's like, do you guys ever use that with practicums?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we have, and especially like if you're in Louisville, we have so many affiliation agreements already and have practicum students in so many agencies in Louisville, and 7 counties is definitely one of them. But yes, we also, I'm sure that we have students. I don't know for sure, but like with how big 7 counties is, I'm sure that we have some students that are doing their practicum where they work at 7 counties. So if you are interested in doing an employment-based practicum, again, that just might take a little bit of extra time to set up. There are some stipulations involved. You have to have an MSSW who's been working in the field for at least 2 years at the place that is willing to supervise you. You have to, it's separate. It has to be separate from your job. So you have to have separate like duties and learning goals and stuff like that. And so they'll work all that out with your employer and stuff. So
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
you're welcome. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Good morning. I am calling from Korea. My question is for military students specifically. How would practicum work for active duty military students?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And good morning. I was like, good morning. Yeah, so we actually have quite a few active duty military students, and they do their practicums on base. We have the capacity to do that, and we currently do have students doing that. So yeah, it's just about the same. We work with you to set up your practicum where you are. The only barrier I've kind of heard that might exist for military students is, you know, if they get reassigned in the middle of practicum, that kind of sucks, because it has to be 2 semesters in a row. But there's just nothing we can do about that because of the accreditation requirements and stuff. But they can maybe possibly work with you to move virtual or something. You know, if you only have a few weeks left or something, maybe they can try to work with you to go online. But yeah, we have lots of students who do their practicums on base where they are internationally.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other burning questions? Also, I forgot to mention our survey. If you guys don't mind taking a few minutes to fill that out, that'd be awesome. It's not very long. So yeah, we still have time for questions if you have them. Looks like we might not. That's okay. We're here if you think of something later. So please feel free to email us if you have any questions. All right. Well, thank you all. Hope you have a lovely evening or day in Korea. Did we have another question?
No, I was saying thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.